With Professor Kai as well as myself, Ninja Nate. How you guys doing? So today we're gonna cover a few more things. If you guys wanna comment real quick, we can address a few things before we get into the video.
Yeah, if you have some specific questions, then now's the time to throw those out there so that we can go through and answer them for you. So feel free to throw a few questions at us.
Yeah, so we're going to wait for a few people to come in. I know that, again, it's always a little hard to start up in the beginning here because I usually commute to get to this area, and I think...
And by the way, all of you, we appreciate that you're all 6 feet away from us. Just saying.
Yeah.
Social distancing. And if you didn't see it yet, we actually did a funny video on social distancing bodyguarding, where Ninja Nate here is the subject we're protecting, and Kendall, who also is one of my students who is also certified by Sifu Richard Bastillo, is the other bodyguard besides me, and we're at a Walmart, and it's quite a funny video. Nate can probably set it up where there's a link in the description so you can check it out. And then some people asked, they couldn't understand the spelling of my channel, and there it is, Olohekai, Alohe Kai, that's my YouTube channel. And it just means like Sifu Kai, or Professor Kai, or Coach Kai. And I realize it's hard to spell, but when I set it up, I didn't realize that YouTube was going to be such a big thing. So even though I'm Nate's instructor in martial arts, I admit that he's my senior when it comes to the world of YouTube, which I'm sort of new to. But I'm very excited to be able to help him help you and be able to share not only knowledge, but really what's most important to me is keeping everybody healthy and positive during this very difficult time that we're in, where you have the coronavirus and you have rioting and violence and all of that kind of thing going on. Really, murder hornets are the least of our worries, but there's so much out there that it can be very easy to fall into a state of depression. So one of my friends put out a push-up challenge to do 25 push-ups a day, which is also on my channel, to do something to inspire people that are fighting mental illness and post-traumatic stress. So just a shout out for all of you. If that's something you would like to do, feel free to comment here on Nate's channel that you're doing that in solidarity, and it'll also help you get in better shape.
Right, alright, so we're going to start with a little warm-up as we still wait for more people to come in. We're starting from the neck down, similar to what we did yesterday if you were here for the Instagram Live. If not, you can always check it out next time. You can always look for both of our Instagrams, Ninja Nate and Coach Kylie.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy to find. His is the same on Instagram as it is here. Ninja Nate on Instagram. Mine is at Coach_Kai, Kai _Lee, spelled Li like Jet Li. Now change directions. And we pointed this out yesterday on the live Instagram video. You want to have soft knees and soft hips when you're rotating your neck, so that your center of gravity remains low. And in general, that's smart in terms of being a fighter. For example, while Nate's moving around, if I bump him, he'll be okay because he has soft knees and soft hips. If you're stiff and you're moving your head, then what'll happen is your whole body will start to oscillate.
And it's like when you're in high school or even middle school, and people used to poke your knees, right, and people would fall over. It never happened to me because my knees were always slightly bent because that's the way we usually train. So yeah, it's one good example there. If you have your knees locked out, you're gonna collapse, right? So especially with the oscillating thing too, you're gonna be off balance. And
it's an excellent
side to
example.
side.
Also saved me from getting pantsed in soccer practice. So I was 2 years young for my grade, so even though I'm a big guy now, when I was a kid, I was always the smallest kid. So had somebody that was kind of a bully come up and try to do the whole pantsing thing in soccer practice. But because I had my knees and hips hinged from martial arts practice as a kid, I naturally went with it and sat lower, and nothing happened. And I turned around and looked at him, and he ended up looking as bad as his intention was. And again, that harkens back to something that Bruce Lee shared in Enter the Dragon, where the Australian fighter tries to goad him into a fight.
Yeah.
And Bruce says, "Oh, why don't we go on the skiff, on the little dinghy boat?" And it's a trick because it's winning a fight without fighting. And truly now, in these difficult times where so many people have a high emotional state, easy to get angry, easy to be driven to fear, it's even more important to be humble, compassionate, respectful, and courteous to others. Oh, we have somebody commenting.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Can you put your shoulders back, please? Can you put your shoulders back, please? Shoulders back.
Maybe you want a bigger view. You want us to move back a little bit, maybe. So next after your neck would be your shoulders. So
Yeah.
let's rotate our shoulders forward. We're going to elevate, roll them back, and then lower. And when you see what we're going to practice today, you're definitely going to want to do these. Because if you maintain one position for a while, it can get tiresome unless you're limbered up.
Oh, he's talking about posture. Saying my shoulders were rolling too far forward.
Oh. Well, that's because if you saw the Chinese Connection, sometimes you have to be a bit of a secret agent and act like, you're not very dangerous so that your enemy underestimates you and doesn't see you as a threat, right? So, Nate was doing it on purpose to see if you were watching, because normally he has amazing posture. So now we're rolling back in case you didn't catch that transition.
Alright, so we can move on to the arm circles. If
Yep.
you have a little space, we can alternate them. That's easier.
So sometimes I like to alternate anyway, and the reason is now you're doing torsion on your spine. And we can reverse the direction. It also helps enhance your coordination a little bit.
And then we'll twist our torso now. And then over to the hips, rotating around. And the other way. Another comment? Thanks a lot. Oop. And you will move back a little bit, but you're going to go to your knees now, and then you're going to rotate in one direction and the other. And the other way. Now I like to go out to in as well, so you're going to out, inward, out to in.
So think Charlie Chaplin or almost like a dance move.
Yeah, and then backwards into out.
And if you had a previous injury, this is also a good way to check in with your injuries, because any MCL or ACL issue, you'll feel it when you do those outward and inward knee bows. It helps a lot to touch base with your body anytime you're about to do anything, especially if you've had a previous injury.
Right. And finally, we're going to go to our ankles. So you're going to bounce on one leg. I'm just going to lift one of the feet, and I can't see my foot now, but we're going to just rotate in one direction and then the other way. Then switch feet. You're going to go one direction and the other one. Good. Check that out. Okay, we're good. So I know there was some questions last week about kicks, and the other thing was what did you see that you're thinking about as well today?
Okay, one of the things that came up was having to do with expanding on the trapping concept, because last time we had so many quality questions that it more ended up being like emphasis on Q&A and philosophy.
Yeah.
So going back to basics, going back to the foundation, before we get into kicks, we did want to pick up where we left off and review what we covered yesterday in Instagram Live, which I do encourage you to check out. But we will review that material and then build on it today, because we want to help you to be able to truly get that lesson. And many of you might not have seen yesterday's lesson, and this way it's here for you on this channel, especially since it's so foundational. Pretty much everyone in the litany of the Junfan Kung Fu and Tao of Chinese Kung Fu and Jeet Kune Do extended family, or Ohana as we would say in Hawaiian, would be familiar with this core concept. One of the key things that we pointed out yesterday is trapping is not just physical. It's also mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so in this time where everyone's pent up and having to stay inside and deal with all these different rules, it's very important, like Bruce Lee said, to free your mind, to be like water, to not be limited, to have no limitation as limitation in how you see your life, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, as well as physically. Because that can be a trap. It can be a trap that you put on yourself if you're not careful. So we want to be free. We want to be what we would say noa in Hawaiian, free within ourselves, not just physically in terms of movement, but in terms of how we think, in terms of how we feel, and in terms of how we are as spirits, as souls, as living beings. So the first trap you need to escape from is any limitations you have on yourself. Now, that having been said, in a way, we're having to operate within a trap right now, because you're out there and we're here, and we have to stay within this little box of the camera. But instead of seeing that as a limitation, we see that as an opportunity to help you, because otherwise you'd have to be here in this room with us. So what might appear like a confinement, like a trap, is actually a bridge to you. And that's when we go to that reference point position, that bridge, right? We're doing this on purpose. And we bring this up because in a real altercation, no one's going to be like, oh, wow, you took my parking space. I'm going to get you, bro. Okay. Never going to happen. Okay? Never going to happen. So the reason why you're doing this is to build your foundational skills. Because at some point, unless you're only air sparring in pantomime land, at some point there's going to be a bridge, there's going to be a connection. There's going to be a point where you and your opponent touch. So Sijo Bruce Lee used the reference position as a way to help you build that skill off of a clash. In real life, the clash can happen any way. It doesn't have to be this. It could be a shoulder bump. It could be opposite hand instead of same hand connection, right? And that's where when you get into Chi Sao and Fon Sao, all of those apply, where really anything is possible. But you have to start with something before you can do anything.
Right. Yeah, I did see a few things in the comments. We will address the flexibility in the kicks probably later after this review of the trapping. And someone also said something about maybe in Kung Fu Theater you'll see that kind of hand movement. So yeah, you're probably right, maybe.
Shucks, where's our wire rig? Nate, I told you to bring the harnesses. We were supposed to fly through the air.
Right.
Shucks.
Yeah. But yeah, if we were to review this now, so again, we're going to the bridge, but it is when you've had that connection. That could have been if someone's in a guard, they have their hands up, Maybe I just want to take down their guard, so I'm just going to hit the hands down as I do that. So he's got his hands up. Maybe I'm out here, I'm in a fighting stance, and I want to take down that guard. Or maybe one of us attacked and one of us blocked. That's another time when the bridge happens, and he's got me now. So in that same way, the bridge is going, it's from that reference point of when there's a connection, whether it be attack or defense, doesn't matter. Someone could be, you could be attacking, or the other person could be attacking. It happens at some point, there's going to be a connection there. If there's, if there's an arm-to-arm attack or hit. Now, if you're doing slips, then that's maybe one variation of that where you're not actually in contact with anything. You're just going to go straight for the empty air and hit over the lines that are open already. But when you do have an obstruction, that's what we're talking about right now. Is the obstruction of the hand is blocking in some way, or you are trying to press down the hand in some way. Yeah. Now, someone asked, is there any similarities between JKD and Tong Long? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you a philosophical answer. Because the pathway of Jeet Kune Do is your unique development and expression. If your base comes from Tong Long, then your JKD evolution will have that within it. So someone's base might come from Jiu-Jitsu, and then they're going to have more grappling. Someone's base might come from Muay Thai, and they're going to have more of that kickboxing element to it. So in the sense that Jeet Kune Do is a multi-ethnic, multicultural hybrid mixed martial arts system with a unifying philosophy, there really isn't a limit to what you could potentially do with it in terms of connecting to other martial arts programs, systems, or styles that you might train. It does have its own unique philosophy and identity, which I think is important to understand and embrace. But in terms of the potential of where you could go with it, I would say it's honestly connected to all martial arts.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, so we're just going to go into this, and yes, the short answer is also like technically yes and no, because it can be connected to every martial art. But if you're talking about historically, is it really connected in terms of the development of what Bruce Lee did? More like it was more Wing Chun. It wasn't exactly.
Yeah, that would be very indirect. I mean,
yeah.
It's fair to say that in his life, Bruce Lee researched and read about and studied anything he could get his hands on. So some of that was primarily through reading. Some of that he was actually able to track down masters and experts in particular systems and study them. And in some cases, he studied them more extensively. So if he was still around today, guaranteed that would have continued to an unbelievable level. If you look at his senior first generation people like Guru Daniel Santo and my teacher, Sifu Richard Bastillo, you see that they really took the ball and ran with it. They really took that torch and carried it to the mountain, because he had a way about him that was never satisfied and always curious and inquisitive to whatever could be learned from anything and how that could fit him. Now, at the same time, if you were his student, he would cater that to fit you, because not all of us are the same. Even though, as you can see, Nate and I are identical twins. But for the most part, not everyone's the same. So it's all about making it your own. Now, in order to really do that, though, you do have to understand the foundation. So what we decided to share with you today was something building on what we did yesterday, going from an initial bridge with different kind of entries that you can do from that bridge, running 360 degrees around the connection. So we'll go ahead and review what we did yesterday. So Nate's going to show you the first one from the bridge.
So from that bridge, we're going to do that Pak Da. So you're just going to Pak the hand down, and we're going to hit over the top with that hand that was already bridging. So I'm using the rear hand that's in a Wu style position, or just that guarding hand is going to catch the hand. And once that obstruction is gone, I go right through. So there's no time between line is clear, and I'm hitting like this. Right here, boom.
Now what you want to see is the timing. And Nate is also a musician. He plays the bass in an orchestra. The timing is critical, because there is a slight syncopation going on here. When I execute the Pak, it's and hit. It's not that. Because if I just try to crash the line, that might work in this case because of my size. But it's massively telegraphing what I'm going to do. So what I'm really doing is just disrupting the obstacle where right now he feels connection. I'm replacing this connection with the pop. And as soon as that tension is released, then the attack runs straight forward. So we'll go back and forth slowly so you can see what we mean. And this doesn't just exist stationary. If we wanted to, we can start to move. And that keeps it alive, and you can also see that the timing can change just a little bit. All right? So that's the first one. And all you're doing if we're facing you, if we're in the bridge, is your wuxiao hand, your rear hand, is going direct line to the target, and the target is the other person's arm, disrupting the arm, allowing your lead hand to directly attack forward. And that's all it is. It's just the connection's there. You're switching which hand is making the connection, and everything's flowing straight forward. There's an old Hawaiian saying, the rain will always find its way to the sea. It'll go through every tree, it'll go through the crack in every rock, it'll go through every grain in sand. But the rain will always find its way to the sea. And this is the idea, is that if you are being water, my friends, we are going through whatever the obstacle is and getting to the sea.
Right, exactly. Just like the Indiana Jones thing with the rock and the idle thing. You have to switch them really fast. You're just replacing that pressure that you had with the lead hand to the rear hand, and now you're hitting with that new line that's cleared out. So we're going to do a similar movement now, which is the secondary one we did yesterday, which is the back fist or the hammer fist. So it's kind of going with that same Pak Sao trap, but instead of coming straight line, the attack is coming to the outside, on the side of the face there.
And it can be rolling with the knuckles this way, or as Sifu Richard liked to do, the hammer. And the reason why he was a fan of that, if you know about him, his nickname was the Iron Dragon, and he was one of the massive enforcers of Jeet Kune Do, one of the tough guys that was like the temple guardians. So Sifu Richard Bastillo, Sifu Larry Hartzell, who emphasized the Jeet Kune Do Junfan grappling, they were both really tough guys. They were the kind of guys that you would see standing at the door of the saloon in an old Western movie or something. And he liked the idea that that hammer would come crashing through and it was difficult to injure your hand. With the back fist, you could potentially hit the metacarpals on the back of your hand and injure your hand, but with the hammer, it's very solid.
Someone asks, is a Panther fist okay to his hammer style? Panther, you mean this one, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Leopard's paw or the Panther?
in reality, do what works for you. I mean, that's very, very much the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. You want to start with something core, but hey, if you've got the skill for it, you can be coming in and doing an inverted ridge hand. You could be coming in and going phoenix eye. You could be coming in and going dragon knuckle. You could be coming in and going leopard's paw. You could be coming in and going bear paw. You could be coming in, like, let's say we were at lunch and you could go, here's my chopsticks. I mean, pretty much you could say, the phone, it's for you. I mean, I could hit you with anything and everything. I could let you try on my sunglasses by sticking this stem in your eye. Anything's possible.
Right, and I guess in the sense of movement, yes, you could change any hand position you would like. The main thing is that it's coming over and hitting from the side angle going this way. It could be the hammer fist, you could be using the back fist knuckles, like we were talking about. You're using the phoenix eye, like we were saying too, all these different things. As long as it's coming at that angle, it's the same basic technique. It's just, yes, using maybe a different weapon point. and your hand.
And even the angles are to help you learn the lines, right? Because the first one we taught you was coming in directly with the direct shot. And then this one is coming in laterally. After this, we're going to show you how you can come around to the other side, under and over. And literally, just like if you were a World War I or World War II fighter pilot, you can run the whole clock of angular possibilities. We taught you direct center line first, direct intercept, because that's the foundation coming from the philosophy of the original art, emphasizing the directness of Wing Chun, the directness of fencing, the directness of boxing, with the idea of the jab as a knockout punch instead of just feeling distance or testing out your opponent. So that concept is why the first one is direct. But what we're trying to illustrate to you, for you to train on your own, is that you can actually work this 360 degrees so that your opponent has no idea what to expect once you enter.
Yeah, and they're all, because they're from the same entrance with that same box on enter. You have these three options that they don't know which one might be straight, angle, or angle to the other side.
And remember when he just said that, because one of my friends, Bill Superfoot Wallace, he was famous for being able to hit you with any kind of kick with his front leg, and you never knew what it was going to be because the setup was the same.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the identical picture and then you don't know what's going to come out of that frame, right? So we're in this bridge. Am I going to nail you with Matisse? Am I going to nail you with Gauguin? Am I going to nail you with Picasso? Let's wait and see what kind of painting ends up on your face.
Right. There was a question earlier about something. I just saw it. I couldn't see. There it is. Is the Panther fist as strong as the hammer fist? In my opinion, the hammer fist is a little stronger than the Panther because it's just a closed fist, and you have more area, and you have a more stronger strike to the body, but or the head or whatever you're hitting, versus having it slightly open. It's kind of like a half karate chop kind of thing, or a long sao. So, I mean, it's basically what you choose, but if you were to ask me, I'd say I like the hammer fist better. Yeah, he said thanks. But yeah.
I mean, basically, this is part of Sifu Richard was very much, if you ever met him, a keep it simple, direct kind of guy. And so part of also why he liked the hammer, and you'll see this later, is that he loved to hit people with his elbows. And if you saw his elbows, you'd know why. His elbows had calluses like golf balls on the end of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea is if I'm crashing the line this way, there's the elbow, then here's the elbow again, and then there's the hammer. So whether or not you're hitting someone with an elbow or a hammer is just a function of distance. In fact, I could be twice, right, in slow motion. I can hit him with the elbow and then keep going and hit him with the hammer, right? So,
and it is a function of what you choose to use, because the hammer fist is just a safe hit that has a lot of power behind it. If you're starting to go to this kind of strike, or even to the Phoenix side, you're think about it now. You're actually making the space smaller. That has pros and cons. You are creating more, maybe sharper forces, because you're
pounds per square inch.
Pound per square inch.
And maybe slightly more
making
reach.
it smaller and making more reach. Yeah, exactly. But now you're losing some of that structure and stability of the hand, or like even the strength of the surface area that you're using. So increasing surface area actually has a little more stability power. The smaller it is, like a finger, even like an eye jab, you're not going to get a stability there, but you're going to get more penetration or more accurate pound per pound square inch forces there.
The other thing too, I mean, just keeping it real, is how good are you? Because the more fancy you get, the more you're starting to do a fine motor skill. The more general you are, the more of a gross motor skill. So if you're not sure what that means, a gross motor skill is like a massive muscular motion. If I was just going to give him a bear hug and pick him up, that would be a gross motor skill. A complex motor skill is actually what we just did. We're in this bridge, and I'm going N1. That would be a complex motor skill. A fine motor skill is Nate's doing his cool move, right? So let's say he's doing the same thing to me, but he's going to do it slowly so I can show you. But I'm so good that I'm pinching the cuticle of his thumbnail and then coming over and doing a lock on his middle finger, because even though he was going that fast, I have that amazing ability to be that accurate.
That'd be great for a movie.
It would be good for a movie.
In slow motion, you see them grab the thumb just barely in the time, and twisting the hand.
But I mean, the more cool that is, the less likely it is when, by surprise, a stranger is in your face and wants to take your head off. I don't know how likely it is. Plus, if you guys are a fan of Ninja Nate's here, you know he's pretty quick. So even though I know what he's going to do, my chances of grabbing his thumb, no, go ahead and go full speed. Kind of hard to do. I'm going to let him try, but I don't think he'll be able to grab my thumb either. No, not a chance. So, how good are you? I mean, I'd say if you're already winning the fight and you want a coup de grace move to show your significant other your amazing kung fu, then maybe. And maybe it's humane, right? Because if I did somehow magically get that, right? He's coming in with his attack and I magically got my cool little move, then I didn't have to punch him. I'm like, now be a good boy and apologize to this lady for knocking over her groceries. And then I didn't have to injure him. So in that sense, I'm humane. I didn't punch him in the face, you know? So if you're good enough to pull it off, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying make sure you're good enough to pull it off, because that's not going to be too easy.
Yeah.
So in general, simple is usually better, at least to start. Okay? So let's go ahead and show you how to do this second one.
All right. So from here, we're going to go from the bridge arm. I'm going to pop the hand, but this time I'm going to actually bring my hand back a bit, but get my elbow over the arm. That way I can hit this one right away. So
the elbow is also a trap.
Yeah.
So you'll notice I'm bigger and taller, so it's actually quite important for him if he's going to go lateral to shut down my line. So when I'm coming in here, boom, this is here, because now this is crushing the line. It's more important if you're the smaller person to be good at this. So watch him again.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to come over. I'm going to trap over this arm so I have almost like a highway I can slide it across. So even if it was in a dark alley and I can't really see him, I'm using both my arms to feel where I'm going to go. Because I'm going to just trace up this arm and I know the neck and the jaw is going to be right up there somewhere. Okay? So same thing again. I go over and I hit. I'm going to do it slower. Lock, bring it back, and hit. So the timing again is different. Before it was just once we feel it, we're going straight. This time when we feel it, we're actually bending a bit, but then getting the elbow to drive forward. So we're never going backward. I'm still at least getting forward pressure, driving forward, and I'm going to hit on the side of the head this time here.
You almost feel it twice. So in other words, the pock is slightly in a different position because I'm not trying to clear the wrist for here. I'm trying to clear the forearm for here. So I almost feel twice, where I'm going to feel the hairs on his wrist or the hairs on my arm as I create that tactile bridge. And as I mentioned before, my elbow might not find his hand because he might not be as good as he is. I might be finding his face and then coming through with the hammer, right? So in concept, when you're coming through here, the timing is more like, instead of and one, it's more like 1 and 2. 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 Okay, so we're going to go slowly back and forth so you can kind of get a feel. That way if you have a partner, go ahead and emulate us. He comes in. Boom. I come in. Now I do want to point out one little thing that he is doing a good job of. Don't give your back. So this is what I mean. If when I come through here, I come in directly, that's good, because in a worst case scenario, I'm still winning this crash. And then this hit can happen, right? He'll do the same thing. If he's doing it correctly, I'm looking at this elbow coming in, And even if the hammer doesn't land because I'm stuffing him, he's still winning that crash. You see how I look like a unhappy trapped chipmunk here? So that's the feeling, is you want the other person to feel bound. This is kind of the essence of trapping, is he's defunctionalized my weapons right now. Also, in an ideal world, I'm off balance, which means what? My kicking ability is now not so amazing, right? And it allows him, if he has that skill set, to go into grappling, go into throws, takedowns, trips, what have you. Okay? So, now conversely, if when he comes in, he's only thinking of the hammer, and he overshoots the elbow this way, then he's giving me his back. If I know grappling, I could do that. If I'm just striking and he does the same thing, right? Then I'm just attacking the back, right? Or changing levels. He gives me his back, and I know striking, I'm going kidney shot, boom, knees, elbows, etc. Okay? So, there's a temptation, especially because we all are such fans of Bruce Lee in the movies, to emphasize the look cool factor over the functional factor. So never forget that you're going to be a warrior, a genuine martial artist first, and an artist, actor, stuntman, expressioner, whatever you want to call it, second. So the idea is, if we're looking at you and you're looking at the business end of that shot, you should be nervous about this elbow, right? And then from that, then you have that to worry about. All right, does that make sense? So now you got two. Let's review what those are. He's going to come in with the first. I come in with the first. He comes in with the second. I come in with the second. What you should already be able to see is, with some work, you already have potentially a way to use the 5 ways of attack. Meaning, if he keeps doing the first one, so that I keep feeding my Wusao hand on the center line, he could potentially surprise me with the second one. Oh no, I'm blocking nothingness, and I get nailed, right? You see it? It's also the opposite is true. I could be attacking him with the second one over and over again, and then surprise him and go right down the center and ruin his day. Right. So never fall asleep at the wheel. See how all these things really are like this once you're good at them, right? Because you only need one. I mean, in a real situation, in general, if you win the beginning, you're in a good place. So you want to get to the point where there's no telegraph and where each one is perfect. Let's go ahead and show them the third one.
The third
number
one.
3.
All right, so number 3, we're going to go the other way now. So we went to the back was on this side. The other side would be going to this other side of his face. So then I'm going to fade this time. So this one's even more interesting because I actually let go first of the lead hand and let him pass through, and I stop it with the rear hand as it comes in. So I'm not letting it crash through, I'm giving it this energy coming around, and as that one is distracting him, this is going to the head. So again, one more time, I'm releasing the pressure off the front hand, but I absorb the energy and swing my arm like it's a door opening. And so it's going to go around, and I go over right away. So I already swing it using the elbow hinge movement. As this one catches, it's just going to swing and hit. Like that. So you can turn this into a palm strike, or you can turn it into a hook punch, right? You can turn it into reverse back fist.
Or all your other little hand positions you were asking about.
Right, anything you wanted to try with that angle of the
Now
hand.
note that he's not violating one of the core principles, which is single unit moving principle and immovable elbow. So even though we're here, right, the elbow is not changing, it's just losing tension. You're just relaxing the tension there, but the elbow position remains the same. It just loses tension and then rotates from there, right? So ear cup, one of my favorites, because my teacher, Sifa Richard, when he wanted to tell you that he loved you or just mess with you, would do, what you doing? You know, he'd like goof around with you. He wouldn't hit you hard, he would just mess up your hair. I had to demonstrate because, you know, he's got such a cool hairstyle. And as you can see, I'm a proud graduate of Ernie and Bert's House of Hair Design. You can find them on Sesame Street. Just means I cut my own hair. Anyway, you missed the joke yesterday, so I had to share it again. So again, with this one, we're now going to go back and forth so you can see it from both views. Ninja Nate comes in. I'm going to cover that one. Then I come in, and he's going to cover that on this side. We'll rotate so you can see. Okay, nice. So now you got three things to play with going in the center line and on either side. So you've got a whole lateral line, right? We started out first with clearing the line, center line. Then we went lateral outside. And now we went lateral inside, meaning we're going inward, right? Versus outward from ourselves. So whatever terminology works for you. So now we're going to go to permeation number 4 and go under.
All right. Yeah. So this time we're going to go down. So instead of, this is all based on different types of energy you could be giving me as well. Sometimes when he has a forward pressure, then this is better. Just letting him go down forward. Sometimes he's pushing my arm that way, I'm going to flow to the outside. If it's very weak or I want to come to the middle as he's pushing.
Or maybe because I'm heavy, I'm kind of going downward.
Right.
And it's real easy for him to go to the outside.
Yeah. And now again, and now he's pushing my arms upward more a little bit. Now there's more energy going up, so I want to always yield to the force, especially if they're a lot bigger and stronger. So now I'm going to catch it same way almost as I did with the third one we did, except this is just going to fade down and hit low. So I'm just taking this arm off, but instead of going all the way around, I'm just going to hit right where that open line is now. Because as his arms go up and my hand replaces it, I might press it up a little bit to expose his ribs, and I can go down for that low shot. So again, one more time, I fade with it, I catch and push it up, and I come down. Now he might use either hand. Right now he's using the rear hand, which is actually pretty smart, because if he does the front hand, he could still do that. Even if I press this down, he could still go down, but then look, that's where we go into more combinations with trapping, and that's where we have second, third, and fourth in movements.
Well, it's also because I'm his teacher, so
I
I know he likes to do that kind of stuff. Especially, he doesn't really get away with it with me, but we'll make fun of other guys. You've seen our other training partner, Kendall, who's also a big guy, and that's one of Nate's sneak attacks, is going on the underline, because a lot of big guys won't have that so well defended.
Thank you, Anonymous Central, for the very generous super chat. So you guys, last time someone else gave us super chat, I was really surprised. And this one is also very generous offer there. It's quite a lot. Thank you very much, Anonymous Central. I think that you just don't want to be named, so very thanks for the blessing there. And we continue to do this for free, and we encourage other people, if they want to support as well. That's always welcome. And what's cool about the super chats is you can actually pin your comments to the top for as long as however much you're offering to give or whatever. But it's all donation, so we're not asking you to do it. It's just for us as a kind of a support, as a thanks, or just to like say something on the comments that you want to put for everybody to see. That's what super chat's there for. So his comments pinned to the top now, as you can tell. And again, thank you very much. And
Mahalo nui loa.
We'll continue.
So Hawaiian for thank you very much. So again, going into this low line version, if you want to see it from my view, right, it's almost identical as the third iteration. So if I was doing the third iteration, where I'm here, but now I'm going to go directly in. I'll go very slow. Boom. Now, it's important that you think about your anatomy on this, because if he was attacking me with this, there'd be really primarily two strategies. One would be to sink it, meaning I'm trying to hit you directly low. I'm here and I come in directly low on angle, power, right? The other would be more of a stinging feeling, okay? So I'd be whipping this way. I could be attacking the nether regions of the person, I could attack the femoral artery, or really, in a situation where I'm taller, I could just be wanting that reaction. I just tap the belly, I'll do it slow motion, then his hands lower. Then I come over and boom, right? So that would be transforming it more into an attack by combination.
Right.
So over and over and over again, as you get better at these basics, the 5 ways of attack become clearer and clearer and clearer. So this is like a core alphabet. We're going to review all 4 for you now real quick. He comes in with the first one, goes direct. I go direct. Okay? Now he's going to go around to the outside. Now I go around to the outside. Now he's going to come under and in. Now I come under and in. Now he's going to go low blow. Now I go low blow. Okay? Now part of the reason why we are using the Wu Sao hand to cover that is because we want to keep our weapon in our opponent's face. So think of it that way, right? I still am thinking that closest weapon, closest target, that this is dangerous. So it is quite possible that when he came in with that low attack, go ahead, that now I can still come in and attack. Okay? So the better you get at this, the more these little possibilities start to rise. But you do want to, at least at first, be cooperative in helping each other refine these individual tactics versus making it like a game where it's competitive. Because until you're good at it, being competitive will only maybe reinforce some mistakes or some bad habits. So get good at each one. And depending on time, we have time to show them overhead.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So there's another one that's quite easy to do that maybe isn't quite so obvious, right? And it's like a skipping broadsword. So in other words, the very first one was here. Okay? If I crash this line through, then it's that. Okay? So the reason why I wanted to give you this is that then you would now have this. Right? You'd have the center, right? You'd have the outside, you'd have the inside, you'd have the low line, and now over. Okay? And lots of ways to do this. You could do it Three Stooges style, where I'm doing like a palm heel or a nose smash or a pie to the face. I'm doing it more like a skipping hammer because I'm thinking, what am I going to do next? So where am I going with that, just so you have an idea. If I make this connection, then I'm going to come back and I now have it, right? If he responds by changing levels when I go, right, then I can take his back. If he responds by leaning backward, now I'm in chain punch heaven, right? I'm in straight blast heaven. The person gives up their balance. I'll let him demonstrate because it's going to be clearer because I'm bigger. When he crashes the line, I react by doing this, then I'm just pretty much saying, please screenshot that moment and you'll look like a superhero. Because now once the head is behind the hips, game over, right? And going back to the straight blast, right? That's fundamental. Hopefully he's already covered that for you. But this way, when you're practicing on your own, you at least have that family. And then when you get better at it, you go from this to this. So now you can use the same attack lines to hit those other angles, right? And then your target just varies. So if I'm doing the low line, I can now attack the armpit, for example. If I'm going over with the hammer, I can now go 45 down, right? Things like this. If I'm coming on the inside line here, I can go 45 down, right? I can also go 45 up. So you have all these possibilities once you get good at this. But the idea is what your opponent sees is the identical picture up until the moment when they get hit. So they don't see it, they feel it.
Right. And again, choices of when you have all these different angles of attack. Now, when do you choose which one? That comes with practice. For one, first knowing every angle that you want to practice and getting that internally in your body. Then trying to feel it with this kind of drill with the person. Then maybe they give you certain energy like we were talking about earlier. They're going to push or pull your hand in some way. You usually want to go with the fourth side that's open. So whenever they're pushing one way, you let them go that way. And I just let them go through there. They tell you how to beat them, basically. So whatever energy they give you with that lead block, sometimes people will block hard outward. Sometimes they'll block hard inward. Sometimes they'll block upward. Sometimes they'll block downward. You know, you have angles of blocks that they're going to do. And then you're just going to flow with it now. Once you feel that connection, once that bridge happens, you'll know which one to do at that moment.
Any questions?
Yeah, there's a few questions, and let's see. Blonde master is expert. Actually, he's not blonde.
Pardon me?
It just looks like he's blonde.
And so I'm in the overhead light.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But thank you. I'll take that as a halo effect that I'm sort of glowing or something.
Yeah. Oh. I did see someone. Chin nod and speed seems too difficult. Yeah. In a street fight, should you go through the opponent at an angle, or should you move around like a boxer, moving in and out?
Well, your opponent decides that, honestly.
Yeah.
So you have different kinds of opponents. Some, their habit is going to be to stand there like a statue, in which case it would make sense to off angle because now they're like a tank, right? If someone's fighting you like a tank, I'll give you an example. I'm here, Nate goes that way, and if I'm a tank, I'm going to go turret, 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 body. And then I'm too late, right? Because as the turret turns, I would get hit.
Right.
Then the other type of person is someone who is constantly trying to make themselves a difficult target. So, in other words, if Nate is the person that's doing that. So in other words, he's fighting more defensively. So no matter what I do, he's responding to it, moving away, moving away, moving away. So now I know, and this does come from boxing, it's ring strategy. Now I know that he's a runner. So what I've got to do is trick him into running into a problem, right? So I'll do this, he'll move toward you, and then I'll throw the hook, you know? So basically it's stuff like that where you're maneuvering him. Now, the opposite of that would be someone who's a jammer. He's constantly trying to force my move, right? So he's pressuring me, and if I just stay here, then I'm always going to be playing catch up because, I'll give you an example. He throws a shot, I defend the shot, he throws another shot. Sooner or later, I'm going to be late to the party, right? So if somebody's coming at you like that, that's actually part of where what we just showed you is most valuable. Because if he comes in with the initial attack and I feel his motion, then his attack becomes my counterattack, to where his attack hits nothingness and he walks right into Antarctica, right? He becomes the Titanic that hit the iceberg. So it kind of depends on your opponent. You don't want to always have one hard and fast rule. I'll give you another example in someone who's a really good kicker versus someone who's a really good grappler, right? So someone who's only thinking grappling might be really stable. their feet are wide, and they're thinking double leg takedown. And someone who's only thinking kicking might be really light on their feet and think, you know, right? They're thinking they're going to get you with their feet. The problem is, both of those guys need to be lucky in that scenario, because as soon as the grappler's close, the kicker's going down. But if the grappler's afraid to try to go in for the takedown, he's going to get kicked, right? But that kick better be good if the grappler's good. Because otherwise the next part of that story ain't good. Going back to the chin out question, I'm not opposed to it. I just was saying that when you're first learning, you don't want to go for complicated first. So I'm going to bring that up because it was in a different video that I did on my channel. And since people asked they couldn't understand me last time, that's my channel. OLOHEKAI. And if I was as smart as him, I would have had an easy name. But I wasn't trying to be a YouTuber really. I just was sharing more some ideas with my students, and I wasn't thinking about the larger audience. But that's my channel right now. Feel free to please subscribe because I don't have hardly anyone right now.
And by the way, we're just running through this idea to some of you early right now. I might even post this on the community tab, but we are thinking of starting another channel that goes and does fight scenes and breaks down fight scenes basically and teaches you exactly what happened. For example, like famous ones like Ip Man, John Wick, you know, Lord of the Rings, anything. So like anything basically under the sun. He's probably done that martial art. He's been over 30 or more different styles, going from European to Asian to all of that. So anything that's been ever in a movie, plus he actually is a stunt coordinator, we could probably do it. And with the skills between the both of us, like I'm sure if I need to take a big fall, flip around in the air, spin 3 times, I'll do that.
Hey.
So if you think it's a good idea, then yeah, leave a thumbs up or comment below if you want to see that.
I got killed on TV not too long ago, went out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
And actually my most popular video on this channel is I did a fight breakdown of the submission from Black Panther, the movie, because the kids in our class that Nate helps me teach asked about that fight scene. We actually went as a field trip for the class, and then in the theater the kids said, oh, how do you do that? And that was on a Saturday. So the very next day we went over it, and that's on my channel, and I'll probably load it on this new channel that we're talking about doing. Also in college, I had my own class called How to Fight Like a Secret Agent, and I broke down all the fight scenes from Bourne Identity and Taken and the James Bond movies and whatnot. But I didn't do it on YouTube, I just did it in the class. So this is something we're thinking about that could be a lot of fun as a new channel that we could do together to share with all of you. So we're also talking about developing web-based learning that would go step by step further from the beginning. It wouldn't be maybe as fun or entertaining as YouTube videos, but it would take you step by step, and then whether you travel to us or we travel to you, you could also potentially test and progress with us in the art formally and be part of that lineage. So that's also addressing some questions that were brought up yesterday and last time.
Yes, so if you're interested in that, definitely also comment below and tell us that you want to be part of that program. You can get in early on it. We'll send you the emails or messages and how it's going to go from here on out. And yeah, just let me know what you think. Someone did comment about our shirts, and yeah, we are wearing these in honor of our teacher, which we already mentioned earlier with the hammer fist thing, Sifu Richard Basillo. So, but these are in a way special because actually he designed these.
Well, these are the last ones of these. This is the last shirt that that was ever used at one of Sifu Richard's programs in Hawaii, and then we also wore these in his honor to the World Championships in Portugal, where we did a Hawaiian haka, which you can see that on my channel, which again, in case you're watching, I need subscribers. Please give me a comment, give me a shout out saying that you're from Ninja Nate's subscribers. It'll be deeply felt by me and make me feel like I'm glad that I've been here helping him with this channel for all of you. So please do that, and we're going to definitely do some things together. But my good friend Eddie Veronique helped me with these shirts with the IMB Ohana, with the IMB family, And we don't have any more. Several people have asked me, including Sifu Larry Hartzell's wife, Deborah Hartzell, asked me, and we don't have any more, but if there's enough interest, we can make some more and even maybe add something special to it to make it unique. So we are going to be doing some shirts this summer, specifically to offer all of you that are following us, especially those of you that support the new channel and the new online learning program that we're going to start.
All right, with that, I think that's it. So we're about 60 minutes exactly, 60 minutes and 30 seconds. I guess the kicking one, I will have to do that next time. So next week, Thursday, same time, 5 p.m. in Hawaii time, we'll start to cover the lower body stuff because we did a lot of upper body, straight lead, all these hand movements, trapping, intro to trapping. So I guess, yes, it's time to do some kicking. So next
But
time,
do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework.
Practice these first because this is foundational material that everyone in the larger ohana of Jeet Kune Do, especially the more old school they are,
Yeah.
the more they'll recognize this material. And it is important, I feel, to be all three, to respect the past, meaning we honor the traditions and the teachings of where we come from, which would be Sifu Richard. And as some of you know who were here last week, I then include my students in that. So I was with him from when I was in high school, and then Nate started with me from when he was in high school, and once he was an adult, I introduced him to my teacher so that I could pay it forward. In other words, he's not just certified with me. I put him in front of my teacher because I'm proud of him and proud of all of my students, honestly. And I had them all test with my teacher. All of my students in Jeet Kune Do, I all put them up forward in front of my teacher to his last day. So he's one of the very few that were actually able to get a significant level up to associate instructor under my teacher. And all of us honor where we come from. So having that respect for the past is also a very Hawaiian value. Having respect for our kupuna, it's a kuleana responsibility. Also application for the present, which is why I want you to practice what we share with you. Jeet Kune Do isn't alive unless you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
You need to actually train and actually do it. Anybody can be on Facebook or other social media and talk about stuff. I want you to train. And that's part of why I'm here to help him, is I want to make sure that it's accountability, that you actually are doing it. Because we really want to feel like we gave you something that you can benefit from right here, right now, today. So that's number 2, is application for the present. Number 3, preparation for the future. It is actually our sincere hope that someday at least one of you out there in YouTube land will end up formally wanting to become our student and test to become an instructor, so that all of the lessons that have passed down to us then become yours to carry forward to the future generations. People we haven't even met yet will then be able to glean the lessons that were passed down to us by our teachers. So it's past, present, and future, respect for the past, application for the present, preparation for the future. Mahalo nui loa, thank you for being part of that.
Thank you very much. There is one question that was at the very end, as I noticed at the tail end. They were asking you, what if we're part of another style already? Like, we don't want to cause any problems with you and your teachers. If that's something that they don't feel they want you to do, you want to focus on one. Plus, it is good to at least come up and grow up in one style first before going on to other things. If it's going to confuse or do anything that harms you, we don't want you to do that, of course. But yes, I mean, you can still train
Old school
styles
here.
together.
Old school here is the right way, because I've had to deal with this my whole life. I started out in primarily 2 systems. Kodokan Danzanru Jiu-Jitsu, a jiu-jitsu system from Hawaii created by Professor Shishido Okazaki, Henry Okazaki, who is also a healer. And then Kaju Kempo, which is a mixed martial art that emphasizes street fighting, that's partially descended from Danzanru. But as a kid, I came up in those 2. And then there came a point in 6th grade where I was curious to learn more. And I really wanted to learn Jeet Kune Do, but previously they didn't have any schools in Hawaii that I was aware of. So then my opportunity came in high school. Those of you who don't know the story, I met Professor Wally J., who was from that first style, the Danzanru Jiu-Jitsu, and created his own variant, small circle Jiu-Jitsu. And he invited me to his high school camp, where I met Guru Danny Nasanto, and Cedro James DeMille, who also trained with Bruce Lee, all three of them, Wally J, Guru Danny Nasanto, and Cedro James DeMille. And then they agreed to help me on my journey. And through Guru Dan, he set me up with Sifu Richard Bustillo because he was from Hawaii and frequently was going to be coming here. And so when he first started his program here, I was part of that. And very grateful, because then from there I had the opportunity to train with a number of really fine instructors, including Sifu Larry Hardsoul and Burton Richardson and Christopher Kent and Tim Tackett and all these wonderful people that have added to our journey. And it's because I did it the right way, though. So in other words, as a kid, I asked permission. I asked my teachers when I was a kid, hey, I would really like to go to this seminar. Is it okay if I go? And then I went. And then after I went, I said, oh, they invited me to a camp. Can I go to the camp? And they said, yes, I could go to the camp. The problem only came when I was going to teach, because then everyone wanted me to represent only them. And then that was a challenge, because it was like, how do you choose, if you're a parent, how do you choose which of your children you love the most? You cannot. If you're a child, how do you choose which one of your 4 grandparents is your ancestor? You can't. They're all your ancestors. Good, bad, happy, or sad. They're all your ancestors. So the reality is I always just had to tell the true story, that I started out in the Kodenkan Danzuru Jiu-Jitsu and the Kaji Kembo Kempo, and then that led me to Jeet Kune Do, and then through Jeet Kune Do, if you know how a lot of the high-level instructors are, JKD leads you to all kinds of other stuff. Yeah. Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Filipino martial arts of Kala Arnisa Eskrima, Salat, a whole world of martial culture from every corner of the earth is there. And yet every single time I had to ask, I do have this previous experience, is it okay if I learn your system? And then I go back to where I came from. I'm really curious about this new martial art. Do I have permission to learn it? Now in most cases, I'm very grateful to my teachers, because they were willing to support my continuing learning as long as I didn't leave where I came from, as long as I continued to show that respect for the past. So I never quit Kaji Kembo Kempo. I never quit Kodenkan Danzuru Jiu-Jitsu. To this day, I am still active in those arts and have passed them on to Nate and my other students. The thing is, do it the right way. Be honorable, be respectful, be courteous, be humble. If you're training another system, especially if you have for a long time, make sure that your Sifu, your sensei, your Sabum Nim, your coach gives you his or her blessing to do further study. It's very easy these days to become YouTube is my Sifu and learn all kinds of things online with your friends. That's okay, but in terms of the formal transmission of the art, you want the blessing from the teacher. You want the lineage where that family recognizes you. What we would say in Hawaiian is hanai. So that you're a part of that family.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with having a large extended family, which he and I both do, as long as you're willing to show that respect, that courtesy, that humility, that aloha, that love to everyone that helped you become who you are.
With that, I think that's a great place to end. Thank you for that last question. That is a good question. And remember, there's no wrong questions out there. I welcome everyone to continue to ask. That's what we're here for. That's what the live's here, so we can interact with you versus just doing a video where we already have a goal in mind and we teach it. This one, we still have a goal in mind of what we're going to teach, but we actually are looking for the questions and continue to try to converse with you guys as the viewers. This is allowing us to kind of doing a live thing, converse. And sometimes it turns into more discussion. That's actually fine. It's good. So it's good get to know each other this way, as well as share our experiences.
And it helps us all feel connected. We're living in a time with the social distancing and the stay-at-home isolation, and this is honestly very good, because during this time we've had to suspend both of our regular classes that we have. And so this is a way to still feel all connected. And very much at this time, martial arts is a wonderful way to do that. In my mind, what we do is essential, because it helps all of us to stay healthy and positive. and to be connected, because under the sky and under the heavens, we are all one family.
Right. All right. With that, I'll see you guys later. See you next time. Catch us on Instagram on Wednesday, as well as YouTube again next week, 5 p.m.
Aloha.
Aloha.